All right, I had to think about where the camera was. Hello, welcome to the very first live stream on the Money Pit channel. I am very, very excited to be here with you here today. Not really sure how this is going to go, but I'm excited to do it nonetheless. I just got a notification that the Money Pit is live on YouTube. This is not unfamiliar territory for me. If you know anything about me, you know that I've actually made my living on YouTube for about 5 years now with another channel that's called KG Tropicals. This is a channel that is about the aquarium hobby. That's what KG Tropicals is. This channel is not. And I wanted to talk about that for a minute because I've actually seen this happen before, and I kind of want to nip it in the bud or butt. How do you say that? Before I even get started, I want to make everybody aware. This Money Pit channel is an opportunity for me to do something that is outside of KG Tropicals. Now, KG Tropicals, I love. I wear the shirts every day. It is my business. It is my livelihood. I am very, very thankful that I'm able to do that for a living. It's amazing. But one thing I've learned actually multiple times in my lifetime is if you have a hobby that turns into your business, that becomes a job, and it's not as much a hobby anymore. Still very grateful to do it. Still love every single day, but KG Tropicals is my job. The Money Pit is now my hobby. And when I say the Money Pit is my hobby, I'm talking about the YouTube side of the Money Pit. It's not my hobby to be remodeling my kitchen right now. It's not a hobby to fix things that are broken around the house. Those are more of a necessity type thing that need to be done. But it's the videos, the live streams like this, things like that. That is my hobby. So with that in mind, hopefully anyone that comes over here from the KG Tropicals channel, first of all, very grateful to have you here. Thank you for being such amazing supporters of what my wife Lisa and I do. It's incredible to have this life that we do. But please understand, I will not be talking about aquariums at all in this live stream. This is specifically the Money Pit live stream to go along with the Money Pit videos and all of that. So the reason why I'm saying it is if you bring up how many guppies can I put in this? I'm not going to answer those questions. I'm not being a jerk. I'm just doing what I do. But if you do have those questions, join us Thursday night where I stream on the KG Tropicals YouTube channel. Everybody knows this already that follows KG Tropicals. 7 p.m. Eastern time every Thursday night. Lisa and I both stream on that channel. And that is where you can get your fish keeping questions answered. Got it? Okay. I don't want to harp too much on that because I don't want to come across as a jerk. But this channel, the Money Pit channel, is all about my quest to restore my historic house back to its original glory, which is not going to be easy at all to do because the list of things that need to be done is extraordinary and it's getting bigger almost every single day. I love my house. I love being in a position to buy my house. I love everything about it. It is the realization of a lifelong dream for me. And I wanted to talk about that today. I wanted to talk about the whole thing with owning an old home. I don't want to call it a historic home because really, if a house is old, it's just filing paperwork and you can get it listed as a historic house. So it's not really a substantial thing to be a historic house, unless like George Washington had a dinner or something like that in it, or Abraham Lincoln visited that one time. Then I guess you could call it historic, or a president was born here or something. This house ain't got nothing like that. But because it is almost 200 years old, it is listed on the North Carolina State Registry as an old home. But Uh, and that's what this Money Pit channel is about trying to restore this house back to its glory. And there are some questions. I'm reading the chat. I totally lost my train of thought there. It's my wife's fault, who is in the chat under Roots and Whiskers. There's going to be people that are going to be watching this chat or watching this stream or watching this on replay that aren't aware that Roots and Whiskers is my wife, Lisa. She's going to come up quite a few times today in this conversation, but she'll be in there. I don't know if she's going to be able to be in there for the whole stream. We'll see. I guess it's going to depend on how long this goes. But my quest is to conquer that list of things that need to be done on this house. Some of the things are things that I personally just want to do. They don't necessarily have to be done. Some things are that way for my wife. She wants them done, but again, they don't necessarily have to be done. And then there's some things going on with this house that must be done. Otherwise, it ain't going to be around much longer. And so that's what this channel's about. It's about documenting that. One of the things that frustrates me about this house is, even though it's as old as it is, and it's like everybody in town knows this house, when we meet new people and we tell them, yeah, we live over there on that corner, they're like, oh, that house, like everybody knows. And I used to play in the barn in that house, or I used to run around on or I got married on that property, and the house was in the background of all of my wedding pictures. And yeah, that's a true story. My neighbor got married here. All kinds of things have happened here. So everybody in town knows this house, and it's just really important to me to get it where it needs to be. And so I'm going to document that on this channel, and I'm really excited about it. However, if you've been a subscriber to the Money Pit since the beginning, you know that there was a massive gap of time between uploads. And I have a very good reason for that. And that's really what we're going to talk about here today. I wanted to talk about the challenges of owning an old home. Things that you might not be aware of. You might be like me, and since you were a kid, you've dreamt of having an old house and fixing it up. Give you an idea of what you might be getting into, especially if you buy one that's as old as ours. Another thing is, I'd love to get your input on this if people are in the chat. I'm seeing some people in there chatting, which is very cool. Some of the names I recognize from the KG Tropical stream, which again, thank you so much for that. Glad to see you branching out. You guys rock, and I always love to learn new things. Awesome. I just made a video and I had to take 75,000 cuts because of losing track in a script. My house is 117 years old, so I can relate in my own way, and it's one of the things I love the most. Yeah, so here's the thing. Again, I was on a point here. I don't want to glorify my house as if it's some kind of, it should be worshiped like Mount Vernon or something like that. However, I know I follow a lot of channels that restore old homes and stuff like that. And I would love to see a history of those people's home, at least what the owners know about their home. If you would like that to be a future topic for one of these live streams, let me know in the chat. I would love to do that. I'd love to tell you what I know about this house, which is a lot, but actually nothing if you consider how old this house is. The house was built, I don't know this for certain, but it was either 1830 or 1845. I think it's 1845 is when the house was built. The farm was founded in 1830, but then the house was built in 1845. So, we're 20 years shy of this house being 200 years old. This house was here before the North was fighting the South. Andrew Jackson was the president when this house was built. But I might be wrong there, because I might have based that on 1830. Who cares? This house is really, really old. And when you think about how many generations have lived in this house and how old it is, there's a lot more history than what I know. But what I do know, I can share with you, and I'd be happy to do that because I think that would be something that'd be a lot of fun. But today's episode is about the challenges of owning an old home, or renting the home from the bank, if you know what I mean. We certainly don't own this house. It's ours. The deed is in our name and all of that, at least I think. But, we're renting it from the bank, just like everybody does with with their houses. But before I get into my list, which is vast, of things that have happened over the last 3 years, I wanted to tell you a little bit about why I bought this house. Lisa and I bought this house. I have dreamt of this since I was as old as I can, as young as I have memories, really. I mean, and I don't even know why I would have been watching this, but I came across a television show. Remember those? I came across a television show on PBS way back. I mean, I was probably under 10 years old. The show was called, you guessed it, This Old House. And I don't know what it was about that show, but something about the concept of taking an old house and fixing it up fascinated me, even as a very, very young person. The more I think of it, it was probably something that my dad was watching on a Sunday morning, and I saw it and I just fell in love with it. And I was in love with it and still am my entire life. I'll be 51 next month. And it's something I've always dreamt of, but I never had the opportunity to do. And there's a lot of reasons for that. My ex, she wasn't into it. Fortunately, I got rid of her a long time ago and met the love of my life, Lisa, who shared that same dream. I don't think she was as obsessive about it as I was and still am. Well, she is now, but I don't think it was one of those things that she would have said back then, my life is not going to be complete unless I have an old house that I'm constantly fixing up. That was me. And I'm so glad that we shared that. We both shared that quest together. Like, hey, we're not afraid of getting ourselves dirty. I walked around yesterday. My knees were black because of something I had to do yesterday, which we will talk about as we move on in this conversation. But I lost my train of thought again. I'm not a professional, folks, but we both shared that dream. Just maybe I obsessed over it a little bit more than she did. But there was one person in particular. I saw Dragon Dad mentioned it in the before the stream even started. A gentleman by the name of Norm Abram was somebody that for some reason stood out to me when I was very, very, very young. And a lot of kids would, look up to athletes and things like that. And I certainly did too. I looked up to Christopher Reeve. I looked up to John Riggins and other athletes, Wayne Gretzky, but Norm Abram to me was the guy that was my absolute hero. And the reason why is because I looked at him as I could be that. Not I could be famous and be a legend in the woodworking community and, everybody knows my name. Not that, but I can do what he's doing. Whereas I can't be the highest goal scorer in all of hockey until about 3 months ago. I can't be Michael Jordan. I can't be Christopher Reeve. He's Superman. Are you kidding me? But I could be Norm Abram. And I think that's why I connected with him so much, which of course later on led into the best television show that's ever been made, The New Yankee Workshop, which is still like a religious experience for me when I watch that show. One of the best YouTube channels on the entire platform is the New Yankee Workshop channel, which they launched maybe a couple of years ago, like just before the passing of the owner of that show, Russ Morash. Very, very sad day, but he started that channel up. with somebody that he was working with. And all of the episodes of the New Yankee Workshop are on that channel, which is just amazing. I absolutely love it. If I ever just want to feel good, I put that channel on because it's incredible. I can watch old episodes from way, way back in the day. And I absolutely love that. So this has been an obsession for me most of my life. And I was never in a position to do it. Like I said, my ex, she wasn't into that. So when her and I bought a house together and started a family and all of that, we bought a brand new house. Actually, we had a couple of houses, but I'm not going to go all through my personal history, but we had bought a couple of houses together is what I mean. We didn't have multiples at the same time. We bought a brand new house in 2002, which is great. I mean, a new house is awesome because you're starting with a clean slate. And so I was able to kind of satisfy that itch of being able to do things around the house, but it wasn't what I ultimately wanted. And so, things with her and I didn't work out, which turned out to be a really good thing for me because I met Lisa like a year later and my life was changed forever. We shared this dream together. And then when we were finally in a position to buy a house together, we started looking in 2021 and we looked at a few houses and came close to buying a few of them. One of them we actually tried to put a contract on, but it was declined because he was asking for too much money. We asked for a little money off and the guy wouldn't do it. And the interesting thing is the house never sold. But we looked at 2 houses in Virginia that we were very serious about and 2 in North Carolina that we were very serious about. This one in particular, Lisa actually found it. She's the one that found it. She sent it to me on Zillow or Realtor.com or one of those. And I looked at it and I immediately said, it's great, but it won't work because there's no internet. And we make our living on the internet. So if we didn't have internet, that wasn't going to be something that we were going to be able to do. But as I looked into it further, found out that Elon Musk had an internet service available. We got that for this. We bought this house. We closed on it in March of 2022, but didn't move in until actually tomorrow will be 3 years. May 22nd of 2022 is when we moved into this house. We're not rich people. It's not like we sat on this house for a few months before we moved in. No, there were renters in here. A very nice family was renting this house. The gentleman was actually a youth pastor at the church that's a 1.5 miles away, big church. And we talked with them and we said, hey, listen, we've got a senior in high school here that's getting ready to graduate in a couple of months. We're not going to be savages and make him change schools 2 months before he graduates. So we're going to stay up here in Virginia. And in reality, he would have probably just gone and stayed with somebody that still lived in that area. But we didn't want to do that to him. So we're going to be up here in Virginia for a couple of more months. If you want to stay renting the house, you're more than welcome to stay. We're probably not going to move into the house until May. So they continued renting it until we moved in. They moved out. I think it was only like maybe 4 or 5 days before we moved in. So it's been 3 years. Tomorrow will be exactly 3 years since we bought this. And it's been an eventful 3 years, a very eventful 3 years. And this is kind of the point of what I wanted to talk about here today is all of the surprises and all of the things that have happened that we did not see coming. And you probably can't see coming. You wouldn't have any idea that this kind of thing would happen. But you are very fortunate that you get to get a nice warning from me. If you're thinking about doing something like this, you'll have a little heads up on how to be better prepared and be more prepared than we were for sure. We're fine. Everything's good. But, there was some real big surprises thrown in there. So when we bought this, we knew there was a lot of things that we wanted to do. The list of things that we wanted to do this house was very, very long. Some of the things that I moved into this house knowing I wanted to do are projects that will probably be years and years and years before I'll ever actually get the opportunity to do, because they will cost an absolute fortune. You want the number one example? I'll give it to you. One of the previous owners of this house, who I actually was fortunate enough to meet, and then unfortunately he passed away just a few weeks later after I met him. And it was odd because he wasn't like on his deathbed or anything. He was at work when I met him. We spoke on the phone. He was in his 70s. He was retired, but he was helping somebody. He was a retired attorney, and he was helping another attorney out in town when I was talking to him. We talked for about 2.5 hours. He did some things to this house that he apologized to me for in that conversation. And one of them, the biggest one, was that he wrapped this entire house, this house that is registered historic, with vinyl siding. Now, I don't have a problem with vinyl siding. I think vinyl siding is fine, but not on this house. It just doesn't work. This is a really, really old house that it's an immediate turnoff. You don't really notice it from the street, but when you get up close to it, it's like, man, this is a shame that this house is wrapped in vinyl siding. Because our house, and again, if you'd like to see a live stream about the history of our house, I can kind of go through the order with you of how this happened. But this house has been added on to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Six times. There's been additions put onto this house. Now that makes it sound like it's some big mansion. It's not. It's 3,600 square feet total, which is a really good size. And to be honest, it's more house than what Lisa and I need because we're empty nesters now. But it looks more substantial from the street than it actually is. But because they've added on to it so many times, there is a lot of roof and there is a lot of siding. And so I am guessing, even if I did it myself, I'm guessing the siding project would be a which means $45,000 job. So it ain't going to be anytime soon that a project like that is going to happen. It'll be sometime down the road, unless we win the lottery or Elon Musk gives us half his fortune. We ain't going to be doing it anytime soon. But there is there's the fantasy things that we'd like to do to the house. And then there's the realistic things like what I'm doing right now. I'm in the middle of, not in the middle, I've rounded third. I'm almost to home plate, remodeling my kitchen. That's one of those things that from the day we bought this house, I knew I wanted to do. And as we lived in here, I more and more wanted to do it because I kept finding more and more flaws. That's a realistic project. Painting and redoing the floors and rooms and stuff like that. That's realistic stuff. That's stuff that, we can save up the money to do, and then we can do those projects. But things like the siding and the roof, this house originally had a metal roof because most houses did back then. I would love to put a metal roof back on here. But the gentleman that owned this house that I talked to, he's the one that put the asphalt shingles on this roof. He's the one that put the siding on. He explained to me why he did that, and he apologized for it. He knew it was a mistake. He knew it was, gonna definitely impact the value of the house and the historic value of the house. But, it was one of those things where he did what he had to do. And those are such big jobs, maybe not for him because he's an attorney. He was, for us being mere mortals that sell fish food and in aquarium filters and plants, it's a stretch to be able to do something like that. But maybe this Money Pit channel will be the thing that'll help out with that. And what I mean by that, this is just another one of those little side notes here I want to add. The Money Pit channel, we're not doing this channel. I'm not doing this channel to, be a YouTube famous rich person from it. I mean, that's almost impossible to do on YouTube anymore. Not the famous part. I mean, you can get that, which is weird, but making a lot of money, unless you're doing the fantastical content like Mr. Beast and Ryan Trahan and all those young people that have the energy to do it, you're not going to become rich from YouTube. It's not impossible, but for somebody like me, it's impossible. But any money that's made on this channel is going to go towards funding those future projects. Maybe, Lisa and I will start up an account and it'll be like the siding account, and we'll put a little bit in there every once in a while. I don't know. We haven't even talked about that, but that's kind of, when you end up seeing ads on this channel, that's what it's for. It's not for us to be able to go on nice vacations or, be able to go on shopping sprees. It's going to be able to go to Lowe's and buy this or that to do this or that project. That's what it's going to be for. So just understand, if you ever end up, I'm not a guy that begs for this kind of stuff, but anybody that super chats during these live streams, or if we open up channel memberships, stuff like that. And then of course the ads that will play eventually on the videos, not ads like, let me introduce you to Factor, not that. I'm not going to do that on this channel, but the ads that play before the video starts, the skippable ads and stuff like that, just understand that's what it's for. Whatever money's made from that will go towards the funding for future projects on this channel. But we had a long list of things, Lisa and I, that when we closed on this house, it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. They're all, one at a time. I'm going to work on all these projects and it's going to be amazing and it's going to be fun. But then reality set in and it was like, oh, a lot of these projects are going to have to get put on hold. And this 30 minutes in is kind of the point of this whole live stream here. Cedar siding looks amazing. Yeah, it definitely does. My plan, sorry, Dragon Dad, you're getting me off topic here again. This is what happens in my live streams. My plan is to kind of meet in the middle as far as siding goes. Whenever it is that I do end up doing the siding on this house, I'd like to do it with a composite, something like a hardy plank siding. In fact, if you recall in I think it was the cabinet video where I built the new cabinets for the kitchen, I said in that video, I will not take sponsors on this channel. And I meant that, unless Delta wants to send me a Unisaw or James Hardy calls and wants to send us siding for this house. There's others too. Let's be real. If I end up getting a shop one day and a company like Laguna Tools or something like that was like, hey, we like your channel, we want to send you some tools for the shop, be kind of hard to turn that down. If it directly affects the channel and my ability to do projects on the channel, then I might do it. But you'll never see me reading ad reads for VPNs and, meal services and stuff like that. That's not going to happen. But look at this. See, this happens right off the bat. And I wasn't asking for this, but this is a special thing. So I have to shout it out. Dragon Dad comes in with a $10 super chat. And the reason why this is substantial, that's the very first any funds at all that have ever been made by this channel. So thank you, Dragon Dad. That's amazing. Thank you for that. $10 super chat. Absolutely incredible. And also, we know you are a big supporter of the KG Tropicals channel too. So thank you for that. But we had this long list of things that we wanted to do to this house, and almost none of it got done. Why? Because we continued to get hit over and over and over again with surprises that we were not expecting, things that we could not see coming. A couple of them we should have known. It was about time for that to happen. But we didn't have a plan for these surprise things. We had been saving money, Lisa and I. We saved money for several years to give us a little bit of a nest egg to use for projects on this house. And we didn't know what house it was going to be, but we knew we were going to buy a house. We knew we were going to want to do stuff to it. We had a little bit of money put aside, but almost all of that money was eaten up by these surprises. And the first one, it got the old guy off topic. You're doing it again, Dragon Dad. No, I'm just teasing. the first thing that happened was minor, but it did damage that a week and a half ago, absolutely suffered for. And this happened within the first month of us living in this house. I get up in the morning and I go to brush my teeth. We all do that. And the water that was coming out of the faucet didn't have the same pressure that it normally does. It was coming out just kind of blah. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. The fun begins now. I didn't know what the problem was, but I automatically knew, all right, something's wrong here because the pressure is normally pretty strong. This is not normal. But then again, you're moving into a new town, a new place. This house is on city water. So I didn't know, maybe the pressure goes down in the morning. We live in a rural area. They do weird things out here. I don't know. So I didn't panic over it. Did what I had to do, went through my normal morning routine. And then I came down to the kitchen, which has been showcased in the last 3 videos that I've done on this channel. And that is when I was met with a surprise that I still hear it in my head right now as we're talking about it. And the best analogy that I could use is, have you ever been, every kid has done this. Every spouse has done this. Lisa has done this to me. You ever been in your house and somebody is outside of your house using a hose, whether it be to wash the car or whatever it is that they're doing, and they spray the hose on the window so that you'll go, thinking that you're going to get wet. That sound that the water hitting the window makes is the sound that I heard. But it wasn't like a splash. It was a constant flow of water somewhere banging up against something. I immediately scanned around the kitchen that I'm remodeling right now. So you've probably seen it. There's windows on both sides of the kitchen. So I immediately scanned. There's no water hitting windows. And then I went to my refrigerator and I could quite literally feel it. There was water shooting up onto the bottom of my kitchen floor. So I immediately ran outside. I had not been under our house yet, ever, not even once, but I knew where the access to the crawl space was. I live in a sandy soil area out here on the coastal plains. There's no basements out here. Everybody does either a slab or a crawl space pier system. Our house is a pier system. I look into the crawl space. Our crawl space is about that big, and I'm not exaggerating. It is very small. I am not a small guy. So crawling under there is quite the chore for me, but I didn't even have to go in there. I looked through the access to the crawl space and I saw a geyser shooting out of one of the pipes straight into my kitchen floor. So I'm a pretty handy guy. I can handle myself when it comes to things happening around the house. I did the first thing that should be done in a situation like that, which is turn the water off. But we just bought this place. I don't know if there's a main shutoff to the house. And if there is one, I don't know where it is. So what I got to do is run out to the street and turn the water off at the meter. If you're not aware, you can do that. Even, you're going on vacation for 2 weeks, you can shut the water off to your house. That way, things like this don't happen while you're gone. I mean, nightmare stories like that will happen. But so I ran out there and did that. You can turn it off with just a regular old crescent wrench. I turned it off and I called a plumber. Our realtor actually recommended a plumber to me. Thankfully, he was amazing. We've had him out here 3 times. But I called a plumber not because it's not something that I can fix, but it's because I don't know where the plumbing goes. I don't know, how everything's routed. I don't have the tools to do it right now because my house is set up with PEX plumbing, which is the plastic plumbing pipes. A lot of people don't like that. I happen to like it because It's super easy to repair, and copper piping can fail just as easily as PEX piping can. At the time, I didn't have the fittings and the wrench to crimp the fittings and all of that. I didn't have all of that. So I didn't even have the ability to make this repair, and the crawl space is only that big. So I called the plumber. I gave him my address, and the lady on the phone was like, I know exactly what house you're talking about. We know that house. And I'm like, oh, that's not good news. But she said, I will send Alan out because he is a more slender gentleman and he can easily navigate through that crawl space. I said, thank you. He ended up showing up later in the day because it kind of was a last minute call. So I think he came, I don't know, 5:30, something like that. And it was true. He was a tall, slender guy, which is great because I'm not. And he went in there, immediately knew where the problem was and fixed it very, very quickly. But the fun thing about it, or the funny thing about it was, but when he first got there, I can't just say it's over there somewhere. He needed to see the leak. So what we ended up doing is he put his earbuds in and he called me on my phone. I ran out to the street, turned the water on, and he immediately said, okay, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. So I turned it back off again. He knew where the leak was. He fixed it really fast. One of the benefits of PEX plumbing. I turned the water back on and he was like, okay, it's fixed, but I hear something else. And he actually found a second leak that was way deeper into the crawl space, in a space that I still, 3 years later to this day, have not been to. Because I can't fit back there. It's rough. But he knew there was another leak back there. He went back there and fixed that one too. So he ended up fixing 2 leaks on our property, which was great. And sent me a bill for that. Now I'm from Virginia. I grew up in Northern Virginia and I now live in Northeast North Carolina. I was used to, what things cost in Northern Virginia. Somebody comes to you off hours, emergency situation, a plumber comes to your house and crawls through a crawl space like that in Northern Virginia and fixes a major leak like that, you're going to be in for $650, $700. That's just status quo. So I asked him how much it was going to be, and he was like, I don't know. It is after hours, but the lady at the office, she'll send you the bill right away. And, you can take care of it online and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, all right. So I'm nervous. I got the bill for this plumbing repair, like maybe an hour later, $170. Now, $170 is $170. That's a lot of money. I don't care who you are. But when I was expecting $650 or $700, I was like, man, I won the lottery. Look at this. This is great. I'm going to like living here. Hopefully I don't have to end up seeing this guy every 2 weeks, but we have seen him a couple times since then. But so that was a shocking surprise that turned out to be a good surprise because I found my plumber. And when you live in an old house like this, it's great to know who you're going to use in an emergency. Still don't have an electrician to this day, but I have an HVAC guy and I have a plumbing guy. Mike McHenry said, I'm old enough to remember Bob Vila. Me too. And I loved Bob Vila. Bob Vila has a lot to do with my obsession with old houses, but I'm going to say it. I'll say it to your face, Mike. I'm old enough to remember Bob Vila too. I'll say it to Dragon Dad's face and everybody else that's in the chat. I think Kevin O'Connor is better. I think Bob Vila came across as kind of like a hired, paid shill for the show. He didn't seem believable to me. I don't know. Kevin O'Connor, he's kind of like an everyday guy, but he's less of a salesman than Bob Vila was. Bob Vila's a pro. I love that guy, but I like Kevin O'Connor better. And I like the story of Kevin O'Connor better. If you don't know the story, he was a guest on ask this old house. The folks, I don't remember, it might have been Tom Silva. I don't remember who it was, but the folks at this old house went to his house to fix a problem. I think it was an issue with wallpaper or something like that. And he just worked so well with that crew that when they wanted to replace Vila, they hired him, and he's been ever since. He's been the host of that show, which is incredible. I love that story. Like, you pluck this guy out of nowhere and he's just a natural, and he takes over the show like that. I think he's done a really good job. I'm not as much, he's not as much of a hero to me as Norm is, or Tom Silva. Tom Silva is another one that is, a god amongst men to me. But I like Kevin O'Connor a lot. But anyway, listen, I told you I found the HVAC guy, and that was out of necessity too. This house, again, it's been added on to 6 times. And some of the spaces, basically, if you look at the intro for my channel, or you look at the thumbnail of this live stream, you'll see that from overhead, my house is a U shape. You have the main house, which was added onto twice, and then they added 2, you can call them L's, to the back. One on each end of the house, they extended backwards. And so with each one of those extensions, they added a new HVAC system. So this house has 3 air conditioning and heating systems. And of course, one of those systems within the first couple of months, it was the first summer that we lived here, went out. Fortunately, it's the smallest system in the house. It's hard to really explain the geography, but you have the original house, which it's like right on the other side of that wall. It was added on to twice, and it's 2 stories. The second story of the original house, I don't want to call it the main house because that just seems weird, but the original house, the second story, this one system handles just that. It's basically 3 rooms, 4 if you include the bathroom, 2 bedrooms, a center living room, and a bathroom. Now, this is the area of our house that Lisa and I use the least. We never go up there. We have a cat that spends more time up there than we do. We don't spend any time up there because we just don't need to. However, when we first moved in, our youngest, who had just graduated high school, was getting ready to go to boot camp with the United States Navy, of which he's still serving. Thank you for your service, CJ. He was still with us here, which was great because I needed the help with stuff. And our daughter was home from college. I believe at the time she was a sophomore getting ready to be a junior, or maybe a freshman getting ready to be I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it was because I don't remember anything, but the 2 of them were staying with us for that summer. And then she went back to college. CJ went off to the Navy, and nobody was up there anymore. But because they were staying with us, we had to get that fixed right away. If it was to break right now, we would be less likely to make it a huge emergency to get it fixed because we don't even run that system because nobody's up there. So, but at the time they were here, so we had to get that fixed. That one was a doozy. That was a $750 bill for that one. It's not that the HVAC guy ripped us off at all. It was a fan motor that went out and a couple other things, and it needed some refrigerant and all of that. It was a pretty beat up system, and it's pretty old. So, that was a big bill that surprised us out of nowhere. And he's been back out 3 more times since then because we have 3 systems. And all 3 of them, the newest system is like 18 years old. So things are getting dark in here. Let me adjust this. We have a storm that's happening. Not a storm, but it's rainy outside. So things are getting darker. But because we have 3 systems, because they're all older, All three systems have needed to be worked on at some point in the last 3 years that we've been here. So yeah, our HVAC guy, he's probably, made several mortgage payments just from the money that we've had to pay him. Again, these are normal things. These are things that happen in any home. When you're a homeowner, you have to deal with these things. But we were not expecting all of them to happen all at once. And the first HVAC failure and that big plumbing leak, both of those things happened within the first 2 months of us living here. The rest, I don't have them in chronological order. So I can't tell you exactly when they all happened, but I know they were all surprises and none of them were fun. But the next one on the list is the water heater. The house is 3,600 square feet. There's one 75-gallon water heater for the entire property. Not property, the entire house, which is fine, especially with just 2 people living here. We do get occasions where all the kids come down. Between Lisa and I, we have 5 kids that are not kids. They're all grown adults. We're very proud of them. And 4 grandkids. So needless to say, around Christmas time, Thanksgiving, and usually one time during the summer, this is a packed house in here. So we for sure want to make sure everything's running perfectly then. We might run out of hot water when the whole family's here and everybody's taking showers at night and the kids are taking baths and all of this, the grandkids. That's the only time it's ever really an issue. But even then, we haven't had an issue. But wife comes down to me one day, and of course it was like 8 o'clock at night. And she's like, "What's with the hot water?" "What do you mean?" "Well, it's not hot. There's only cold water coming out of the faucets." I said, "Oh no." Went and looked at the water heater. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an expert, but I knew enough about them to know that the water heater was cooked. It was over. It was done. It was old and it had served its time. It served it well. Not for very long for us, but it served this house for a very long time. It had to have been at least 20 years old. It was a Sunday. Yeah. So Lisa and I end up, I don't remember it exactly, but you know what? I'm going to tell the story the way I remember it. It might be wrong. If I'm wrong, Lisa, don't correct me, because then I look like an idiot. But I think we ran out. No, I know exactly how it happened. We ran out that night because I looked at the water heater. I knew it was done. I knew it had to be replaced. I knew it was something that I could do. So we ran to Lowe's, picked up a water heater. I think it was like $400. I could be wrong. We got the water heater and the fittings to get it connected, brought it home, but I couldn't get it installed because I needed another fitting. And by that time, Lowe's was closed. Lowe's is 45 minutes away from us. So when things like this happen, and they happen at 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday, it's, you're going to be in trouble. But I thought we had it in the clear, but I didn't. It was something that I couldn't get installed that night. So we did have one night with no hot water, but I was able to go to my local hardware store, which is, I've got a couple of great hardware stores that are local here, mom and pop little operations. They know me in there. One of them knows me on a first name basis. I walk in, "Hey, John," it's great. I love it. That's like my dream. It's like Tim walking into the hardware store on Home Improvement and everybody knows who he is and all. I've always dreamt of that, and I have that now. I love it. The other store doesn't know me by name, but they know who I am because I've been in there so many ungodly amount of times. But anyway, we were about 24 hours without hot water. I did get that back up and running. It still cost like $400 or $500 when it was all said and done, because I had to buy a new pan. I had to buy the fittings and stuff like that along with the water heater. But again, just another surprise that we didn't see coming, and was pretty frustrating. But that's a problem that's going to be solved for a very long time now. We got a brand new water heater in there. And so that's good. Norm, I see what you did there, Dragon Dad. Norm, like Norm walking in to the bar on Cheers. Yeah, isn't that the dream? Not at a bar for me, but walk into the hardware store and they know who I am. John, how's it going? How you doing? What you working on? I love that. It's amazing. So the next thing that happened, and this was a big one, and this was one that just had me like this, like, I don't know what to do. This property, one of the things, we've got 4 acres here. You'll probably hear me from time to time say 5 acres just because, you know, men, we like to exaggerate measurements, don't we? But it's just easier to say 5 acres. But it's really 4 acres that we have here. One of the most appealing things about this property to me when we first looked at it was all of the mature, unbelievably humongous, gorgeous trees on this property. You've seen them in the videos. You've seen them in the intro. We've got 6 fully mature sycamore trees, which I love, but I also hate. And there's a couple of big reasons why. The number one reason why I hate them is because they are a constant source of stress for me because they never stop dropping branches. It never stops. In fact, I joked around, the gentleman that used to own this house, he owned it for 20 years that I spoke to. He joked about it. He was like, so you don't have kids living with you anymore. You can't have them go out and do stick patrol. I said, oh, I wish I had that. I have to go and do stick patrol. It's the worst. They're constantly dropping sticks. Sometimes they're big. Sometimes my dog Reacher helps me carry them. It's a problem. I constantly have a burn pile. Right now I have 2 burn piles that are just loaded with sticks that fall off of those sycamore trees. But there's another thing that is a common thing with sycamore trees, and I didn't know this until after it happened. Talked to a buddy of mine that's an arborist, and he said sycamores are notorious for, as they mature, they hollow out. And when they hollow out, they don't die. It's just a characteristic of sycamores, but it makes them very fragile. And so when you have big storms that roll through, it can absolutely wreak havoc on sycamores. And it did. We had a storm come through. There's been a lot of storms that come through here. We live an hour from the coast of North Carolina. Hurricane Alley is where we live. Hurricane Isabel did a tremendous amount of damage to not just our property. Of course, it was 30 years before we owned this place. But it just wrecked the downtown area of where we live. It was a big problem, like a national disaster kind of thing. FEMA was here helping out with that. Way before our time. I was still in high school when that happened. But we had a storm come through that was probably the worst storm that we've had since we lived in this house. And there's one sycamore tree. I'm actually looking at it as we speak, but it's behind you. You can't see it. It is probably, was probably about, I'm not even going to exaggerate, probably 80 to 100 feet tall. I'm talking about a massive tree. And I wake up the morning after that storm and I look outside and I said, oh no, the whole tree didn't fall. Just the top half of that tree fell off and was laying on my property. And I was just like, what am I supposed to do with that? My little 16-inch steel chainsaw, which I bought because another tree fell on this property. Months before this thing happened with the sycamore, we had another tree that was already dead when we bought the property. It's right outside of the building that's at the front of our property, which KG Tropicals followers will know as the fish house. It's right outside of that building, and it was already dead. And a huge branch from that tree fell off and was blocking our driveway. So I was able to get it out of the way, run to the steel dealership. It's never a bad time to buy a new tool. Bought a chainsaw, which I really needed to have anyway. I've used it probably 50 times since then. Bought a little 16-inch steel chainsaw. Again, surprise expense, but a good one. I was able to get that tree out of there. But that little 16-inch saw wasn't going to do nothing to that sycamore. Because we're talking about a trunk that was probably 30 inches round. A massive tree trunk laying on the property. This was in the late summer, like hurricane season. Late summer, early fall, the leaves hadn't fallen off yet. So it was a massive monstrosity sitting on my lawn. I was able to take that little steel chainsaw and chop up a lot of it, but it ain't going to do nothing to a 30-inch trunk. So what I did was I went through, cut off all of the branches that I could, hauled those off to the burn pile. And what I was left with was this probably 60 foot long, no, not 60 feet. No way. Not even close to that. Probably, let's just say 30 foot trunk sitting on the ground, which my saw was able to handle maybe about 10 feet of that, which I was able to chop up into logs, again, take them to the burn pile. I'm left with this really long, at least 20 foot long trunk sitting there. And it sat there for probably, it was probably a month if it wasn't 2 months. It was just sitting there. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And I'm having a conversation with my neighbor one day, which I got to tell you something. I've got the best neighbors. They're the best. We are surrounded by one family that lives around us. We're surrounded by this one particular family, and they are all absolutely amazing people. The kind of people that I could call at the drop of a hat and they would be right here. The kind of people that I know, if my wife and I travel out of town, we let them know that we're going, and we know there's going to be eyeballs on this property when we leave. And good luck if you decide to mess with this place. This is North Carolina. Come on. But, and I would do the same for them in a heartbeat, whatever it is that they need. So I'm having a conversation with them one day. I don't even remember what the circumstances were. And the neighbor that lives directly across the street from me, young man, he says, "What are you going to do with that trunk sitting there?" And I was like, "I don't know." Wait for it to rot out so that I can get it out of here. And he was like, "Oh, that's no problem. I'll bring the loader over and I'll take care of that. It'll take 5 minutes. No big deal." I'm like, oh. And it was true. Within like 15 minutes, he was at the time like 24 and the family has a massive loader that has a huge front end loader on it and a humongous backhoe on it. It's been on this property multiple times since we've lived here. He went and got that. They have a grappler on the loader. And so he grabbed that thing, carried it off, threw it in the woods. Haven't seen it since. It's one of the absolute benefits of having neighbors like that. I have tried my absolute hardest to not take advantage of that. There's been a lot of circumstances where I've been like, man, I should go ask them for help. But I just don't do it because I need to save up those favors. And they've never asked me for anything. So, the scales are tipped a little bit there. But that solved that problem. Giant crater left where the trunk landed on the ground, but at least it was out of here. I didn't have to worry about it anymore. And that was rough. But then we get to something that I actually did a video about. And I would have to check the dates, but I know that it was Easter Sunday when I filmed the video on it. And that is the unbelievable plumbing leak that we had. Yes, another plumbing leak. There's been like 6 on this property since we bought the house. But this one was particularly troublesome because it was underground and it was an underground pipe that's about 300 feet long. How am I going to find that? I did a video all about this. It's a really long video and doesn't have the happiest ending. But the short version of the story is Lisa comes to me one day and she's like, we got a problem with our water. Our water bills are $1,200 a month. I said, what? We got aquariums and we have a pond, but for crying out loud, $1,200 a month, that's outrageous. There's got to be a problem. Went out to the meter. This is, again, all on video. I went out to the water meter and you could just see it spinning like it was smoking. It was spinning so fast. So I spent all of Easter Sunday troubleshooting that problem. I was able to isolate it to one particular span, you know, the 300-foot span. I knew it was in there somewhere, but I had no way of knowing exactly where it was coming from. A lot of people put in the comments of that video, well, you know, look for the wet spot. I did, and it wasn't there. It didn't exist. So, you know, I did everything I could. Couldn't find the leak. So what I ended up doing was put a ball valve on it so that I could just shut the water off to our barn, and we would just turn it on when we needed it, and then we would turn it back off. But then one day I'm cutting the grass, and guess what popped up? That wet spot popped up out of nowhere. I'm just moseying along kind of in my lawn mowing mode, and there it is, this huge puddle. And I was so thankful. I'd never been so happy to see a puddle in my life. I immediately grabbed the shovel, dug it up, and what it was a compression fitting that had failed. A compression fitting is a fitting that you can use to join two pieces together. It's not glued in place. It's basically you tighten it down, and when you tighten it, it squeezes, like, why am I drawing a blank on what these are called? What now my picture's getting blown out because the sun's coming in, but it squeezes these two rubber seals and compresses them down and seals it. Well, one of those failed. So I didn't even need to buy anything to fix this problem. All I had to do was take the compression fitting off, clean it off real good, clean the sand out of it and all of that, put it back on, tighten it down, problem was fixed. Yay. Finally, this whole issue was fixed. And the only reason it got fixed was because somebody, not sure if it was me or if it was Lisa, forgot to turn the water off. So it was sitting there running and it caused that puddle. But I was very thankful for that because we finally got that problem resolved. That issue, that one plumbing issue, is without question the most expensive issue that we've had on this property the entire time we've owned it, because it was something that went on for months and months and months. Lisa just thought, well, water's expensive out here, you know, and that was unfortunate. She finally told me about it, and here we are. Oh, you did record everything for that water heater, didn't you, Lisa? Yeah, I remember that. So finally got that taken care of. And, you know, I'll just jump ahead here a little bit. Probably 3 months later, I was again cutting the grass, and there was another one. There was another puddle on the ground. I dug that up and fixed that one right away, and it was the exact same scenario. It was another compression fitting. That's what I call them anyway, compression fittings. Shark bite maybe. No, it was definitely compression fittings. Looks like a little missile, and it's got the two big heads on each end. And it's for PVC, not for PEX or anything like that. But anyway, found another one, dug it up, and it was right next to a fence post. So it's obvious when they dug that fence in, they hit that water line, fixed it with a compression fitting, and it probably worked for decades. And then that compression fitting popped again, didn't have to replace anything, just fix that compression fitting. We're good to go. And I was able to do that before it cost me any money. But the other thing that's happened here that has been a surprise, and it may make people be like, wow, you bought a piece of junk. I've had to do major repairs on my lawnmower 3 times. I have a very nice, I'm proud of it. I'll be completely honest with you, and I don't have a problem bragging about it. I have a very nice lawnmower. It's a 24 horsepower. Sorry. You got to move up to diesel if it goes to 26. 24 horsepower, 60-inch mower deck, 0-turn Kubota lawnmower. It's a Z422. I love this machine, but it gets beat to hell out here. not because I'm irresponsible, but because the property beats it up. Again, like I was saying, constant sticks, constant rocks in the property that you just don't see. They're under the grass, and boom, I've replaced mower blades like 5 times, which that's, that's pretty normal. But I blew a belt twice. And then just this last week, it's springtime, a little late in the spring, but I was getting ready to do my second mow of the year. So I sharpened all of my blades. I've got a bunch of sets of blades. And so what I'll do is I'll have one set on, and then I'll sharpen the others just with my grinder and then replace them with the sharpened blades. So I replaced those blades. It's not fun to do, but I did that. And then went to start mowing. And all of a sudden, that lawnmower started vibrating like I was on a roller coaster. If you live anywhere near like Central East Virginia, if you've ever heard of King's Dominion, if you've ever ridden the Grizzly or the Rebel Yell at King's Dominion, I don't even know if those roller coasters even exist anymore, but those roller coasters would beat you up. That's what this felt like. The whole mower was shaking uncontrollably. And I'm like, oh God, what's happening now? It turned out that I blew a bearing on it. One of the pulleys that is on the drive for the blade, it's got 3 blades. One of those bearings just exploded. And again, had to recruit my neighbors for a little bit of help. I did not have a wrench large enough to remove that bearing. Went over to my neighbor. He was in the middle of setting up one of his planters, which, is like a 30-foot wide planter for the fields. He was working on that, and I told him about what I had going on, and he was like, well, take this. And he gave me, let me use a giant Milwaukee impact driver that's made for like removing tractor wheels. I took it home, found out I had the wrong size socket. So I just rode the lawnmower over there. He's right across the street, and I got the right socket and was able to get that off of there and replace the bearings. It wasn't a super expensive repair, but it was a repair nonetheless. And I was down on my knees working on it, which explains why I was talking about my knees being black, because from the grease and from the bearings exploding, there was just black soot everywhere. My knees, I think that's still there. I got most of it off, but that black soot from the grease, it was on my knees for the rest of the day. It was a little bit embarrassing, but I got that fixed, and still haven't gotten the entire lawn mowed yet. But I'm just going to be honest with you. A $10,000 lawnmower has been out of commission 4 times since we've owned it. And it's because this property beats it up so much. It's not because, Kubota's a piece of junk. Kubota's about as good as you can get, really. It's like the Mercedes-Benz of lawnmowers. I'm not a bougie guy, but that was part of the deal. When we bought this place, I told Lisa, I said, all right, listen, I got 4 acres that I'm going to be cutting the grass. I'm not doing it with my little 32-inch John Deere garden tractor. We need to buy a serious lawnmower for this, and bought it within the first week of moving into this place. So thank you, Lisa, for letting me do that. We still haven't paid it off, but it's a great lawnmower. But that mower deck just gets ripped to shreds. And you don't expect that. The last house that we lived in for 5 years. I never even sharpened the blades on my John Deere mower because it was just a little, like 1/3 of an acre, and it was still cutting really good. I didn't need to. I changed the oil in that. I take care of my equipment, but I changed the oil in that John Deere a couple times. And that was it. That was all I needed to do. So this is new to me. And my neighbors were telling me that they've got 2, because they farmed 2,000 acres. And, they need to maintain the street side and stuff like that of all of their fields. And so they have two really big Kubota diesel zero turns that they ride all over the place. And he's like, oh yeah, get used to that, because this place will beat your lawnmowers up and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. I could be overly protective of it, and I'm pretty protective of it, but you're still going to hit things that you weren't expecting to hit. And then the next thing you know, it's down for the count. Now, there's a couple other things that have happened that one of which could turn out to be a rather costly expense. Again, just kind of hoping on the Money Pit doing something, and from a YouTube revenue standpoint to maybe help fund some of these things. But that's not me asking for super chats. That's just me saying, hopefully the videos get a lot of views and we make a few dollars on it to help out with this. But I think we may need to have our drain field dug up and redone. It's about 30 years old, and it's already showing some problems. If you remember that scene on Meet the Parents when they're preparing for the wedding, and they're all standing in, and Stiller asks, or somebody comes out and says, what is that smell? And De Niro says, that smell, blah, 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 is our poop. Other word for poop. Hilarious scene. Well, that happened to us. The drain field backed up on us. And it's not because the septic tank is full. Wait a minute, John, you said you were on city water. Yeah, we receive city water, but our sewer is on septic. And I kind of wish it wasn't, because I'd love to have a garbage disposal. We don't have a garbage disposal because we're on a septic tank. I would love to know if there's anybody in the chat or anybody that watches this on replay. I've always been told you're not allowed to have garbage disposals if you're on septic because of the bacteria and all that kind of stuff. If that's wrong, let me know. I'll go buy one tomorrow. I don't care if I have to take out a second mortgage. I will get a garbage disposal in that kitchen. But I've always been told you can't have that. But I was walking through the property one day and I was like, it was just like that scene in Meet the Parents. I was like, something stinks and it smells like poo. What is this? And again, another big old puddle. Fortunately, my son-in-law that's what he does. He maintains drain fields and septic tanks. And so he looked at it and we, took a big piece of threaded rod and we were putting it down there trying to find the distribution box and all this kind of stuff. And we isolated it, but we never even really ended up fixing it. What I ended up finding was I had a toilet that was running, and it was running to the point where you couldn't hear it running. But if you looked in the bowl, you could see the water coming down, and it was overrunning the system. It was overloading the drain field system. And if you're not familiar with a drain field and a septic, all of your waste from your house goes into the septic tank, and then the liquids overflow into a drain field, which the drain field is a series of pipes that goes out to your yard, and it distributes that gray water. There's pee in it, and there's particles of other stuff too. But it goes out into that drain field and then drains down into the ground. And so you never smell it, you never see it unless it gets overloaded. Drain fields are designed specifically to accommodate the amount of plumbing that's in a house, and there a certain amount of gallons per hour or per day. And if you overload the system, it can't handle it. It won't drain fast enough. And you end up with puddles that smell like poo. And that's what we had. But I found that plumbing or that toilet that was leaking. I fixed that toilet, and that toilet's actually 5 feet from me. It's on the other side of this wall over here. Got that fixed, and all of the puddle immediately went away. Whew. Problem solved there without costing us a fortune. I love Kubota. Their Mini X are sold as skid steers. Ran them about for almost 10 years with little to no major maintenance. You can't kill them if you try. Yeah, I mean, the motor on the Kubota, all of the hydraulic motors and all of that, hydrostatic motors, they're all running great. They're quiet. The motor's as quiet as it can be. Everything's been great. The only things that we've had problems with are the wear and tear things. It's the best lawnmower in the world, and I'll say it to your face. If I was going to replace my lawnmower, which I don't know why I would be replacing it with another Kubota, and it's not even a question. I was in there yesterday. I was in the Kubota dealer, and boy, did they have a nice one sitting on the showroom floor. Oof. I was in there to buy the bearings and the new blades, and they had a really nice one. It was a diesel, which, yeah, I was fantasizing a little bit, but I still love mine. So no garbage and septic. No. Yeah, that's what I've been told that too. You can put that in, just treat it like a fish tank. They're similar. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it. I would love to talk to the county and find out what it would cost for us to just get hooked up to city sewer. Because I think our fish house is hooked up to the city sewer, and we pay for it because it's part of the deal. You know, you don't pay for just water, you pay for water and sewer. One of the great things about where we live, very rural area, but we live, I mean, there's probably 5 dumps. I used to call it the dump as a kid. My dad would say, let's go to the dump. But like, what do they call them? Convenience centers. You go in there and there's dumpsters everywhere, and you can throw your trash away or your yard debris or whatever you have, which I've got a trailer full of right now. They've got like 5 of those within 10 minutes of our house. It's great. You're also paying for that on your water bill. So we're already paying for it. I wonder what it would cost to get that sewer run out to the street. The street's about 350 feet away from the house. So I would imagine it would not be cheap. But the good thing is, again, I could walk across the street and I could say, hey, you doing anything with that backhoe? What do you think? Maybe dig me a nice little trench? I don't know. Or maybe Lisa will just let me go and buy the Kubota BX23S, little hairy homeowner front end loader with the backhoe on it. Another neighbor has one of those, and he said I can use it anytime I want, but I don't know if he'd want me to use it to take that backhoe and dig a 350-foot trench, but maybe. I mean, he's a typical man. He's a UPS driver for a living. He is as manly a man as there is a manly man. If I was to mention it to him, he'd probably be like, all right, I'll be over there this weekend. I'll dig the daggone trench for you. Because he would be loving to look for an excuse to use that backhoe. Anyway, back to the list. There's 2 more things. Actually, really only 1 more thing. And then my wife is probably going to be in the chat. We were like, you forgot about this that cost us $1,000 and that cost us $1,500. But I'm just trying to go through the list of things that I can remember off the top of my head. There's one more major thing that happened. And this happened in the winter, which really sucked. And repairing it really sucked because I had to do some damage to my house, but the damage was already done. If you recall the most recent video that I put on the Money Pit channel, I reran my return duct from the laundry/utility room through the attic up into a new location. Well, that laundry/utility room used to be the original kitchen for this house, a detached smokehouse, which they connected with the new kitchen, which I'm currently remodeling. It's not new. It's over 100 years old, but anyway, the original kitchen is still there. That's where our laundry is. And we have a heat pump in there too. Well, we were in there doing something and we heard one of those geysers again, or I heard it. I could hear psss. If you're a guy that ever fixes plumbing, or a woman that fixes plumbing, or has ever had any plumbing issues, you know that sound. The dishwasher and sink backing up. Yeah, I'll get to that. Several times that's happened, and I fear it happening again happening again, which is why I'd like to get a garbage disposal. But I could hear the nightmare-inducing hissing sound of water leaking somewhere. Of course, my hope was that it would be like one of the washing machine hoses, or I thought maybe it was something internal in the washing machine. Brand new washer and dryer that we purchased when we bought the house. They're very nice. They work really well. Well, I had no luck with that. The leak was under the floor in our laundry room. The reason why I knew that is because, again, it's PEX line. PEX runs right up through the floor. I could take the PEX line in my hand and I could move it up and down, which is fine. And when I moved it up and down, I could hear the hissing go. So I knew that was a good sound effect. You know, that sounded right. I'm like the guy on Police Academy. But I knew the problem was in that line. And I also knew I couldn't get to it. I'm going to try to explain this. The addition that was put on our house, that is the kitchen addition, which I'm currently remodeling. If you go in the crawl space under that kitchen and under the original kitchen, the HVAC line, the main trunk line, runs directly through the center of that crawl space. You know, the crawl space that's only that high. So this leak was on the opposite side of that trunk line. When I picked up the line and I heard and I knew the leak was in there, I went down in the crawl space and looked at it, and I could see it. I could see the leak. I could see it spraying, and I could see it dripping down into the ground. And I could also see that I could not get to it. In order to get to it, I would have to crawl all the way to the other end of the house, which is probably 50 feet, and then make a U-turn around it and crawl all the way back to the other end. So I'd be crossing. My big butt can't do that. I'm not a Marine. I can't do that military crawl all the way down. Plus, the crawl space gets smaller and smaller and smaller the farther you go into it. So Alan from the plumbing company might be able to fit back there, but I couldn't. And this was, again, late. Lisa might remember, but it was late in the evening. It was wintertime. There was no calling somebody to fix this. So I had to fix it myself. Just like the other leak that was going into the kitchen floor, this one was also spraying into the floor. And it was obvious. Once I moved the washing machine, you could see it. You could see the floors were soaked from underneath. So I did the unthinkable. I committed an act of blasphemy. I cut into those floors. I had no other choice. There was no other way I could access this plumbing other than to do that. So I did. I got my multi-tool out. I cut the floor. I got access to it. And the leak was right there, squirting up into my face. And because I've had issues with PEX before, and because I was prepared, I already had the fittings. The repair took 5 minutes, but the damage was done. And it's unfortunate because it is one of the original buildings on this property. The floors were damaged. They were damaged before I cut into them. And I do think that those floors, not just because of this particular water damage, but damage that's been there for 150 years, I think those floors are going to end up needing to be replaced anyway. So it's unfortunate, but that's why I was willing to do that, was because I knew the floors were going to end up having to be replaced anyway. So, you know, that's the things that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. My wife did bring up the garbage, or not the garbage, but the drain backing up. Again, not having a garbage disposal is horrible. I mean, I've always had garbage disposals, and so has she. You grind that stuff up and you don't have any problems. Well, we don't have that in this house. So things, you know, we both do our best to try to make sure nothing ever goes down the drain, but you get little grains of rice down there. You get grease that goes down in there. And we had a really bad problem for a while with that plumbing pipe getting clogged. And the problem is you wouldn't know that it was clogged until the dishwasher would get run, and the dishwasher drains through the same pipe as the sink does. That's how it's always done. And that's when you realize that it's backed up because the dishwasher can't drain, so it overflows onto the floors. This is the other cause of water damage to those kitchen floors, which was my worst nightmare just last week. And we had a plumber out twice. The first time it was not Alan. It was a different guy. I'm just going to be honest. First time he didn't do a very good job. I think he kind of, pardon my expression, but I think he kind of half-assed it. I think he just wanted to get out of here. It was later in the day. He just wanted it to be over. So he got it to where the water was draining okay, but it was never really flowing. It wasn't until like a month and a half later when it happened again, he came out again and he got it cleared out really well. But since then, I have bought a 25-foot battery operated, it's a Cobalt brand auger specifically for that line. So if we ever have any issues again, which we have had, I'm able to go under there. Fortunately, one of the clean outs is right there at the entrance to the crawl space. I can get in there. It is horrible because everything comes out of the pipe and it's basically like the pipe is vomiting, but it's kitchen waste, not the other kind of waste that can go through drains. So that would be like, I ain't doing that. I love my wife, but I'm not going to, no. Not even my own stuff that would be coming through those pipes. No, I'm not going to do that. But for this one, it's not that. It's just kitchen water. So it's still bad, but it's not nearly as bad. That tool that I bought is great. It works really, really well. I want to say it was like $250. Again, the way I looked at it was I'm spending $250 on this tool, which I always have available. I've got it available at 8:30 on a Sunday night if I need it. I've got it available on a Tuesday afternoon if I need it. And I don't have to call a plumber who's going to charge me, a couple $100, whatever it is. So we'll make our money back on that tool really, really quickly. I want to use that same logic with buying that BX23S, but I still can't get my wife to justify the $32,000 that thing would cost me. I can't afford to go do that anyway. But these are all some of the things to think about. And I don't think any of these issues that we've had are unique to us. I think these are problems that happen on old houses. My Chihuahua is laying right here next to me and he is snoring so loudly that it's really distracting me. I don't know if you can hear him because he's so far away. Ike. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to wake you up, but that is distracting. You sound like a weed whacker. Don't use Michael & Sons, half-ass big time. Michael & Sons isn't even down here, so I wouldn't worry about that. But I know it's not supposed to put garbage disposal on septic, but I've seen it a lot. But if you have problems, it would make it worse. I feel like the septic tank would fill up faster too. But that's just me. But like I was saying, I don't think these things are unique to my property. Maybe the plumbing leaks that were underground might be unique to this. But if you have old trees, you're going to be constantly dealing with limbs and branches and stuff like that falling. If you have an old house, you're going to have plumbing leaks. You're going to have squeaks in the floor. You're going to have things fail, things that are really old, water heaters failing, HVAC systems going down. These things are going to happen all the time. And so one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give to anyone that's considering building it or buying an old house is the same advice that I would give to someone that's thinking of starting a business, whatever business it is that they're trying to start. You always need way more money than you think you need. Lisa and I are fortunate in that we bought below our means. When we bought this house, we were making a lot more money than we are now, but thankfully we did what we did. We could have bought at the time way more house than we did. The banks were like, you can get like twice as much house as what you're getting, because it was during a particular time in our country's history where everybody was locked in their homes. And it made the aquarium hobby a very popular thing for about 3 years. And so if you were a content creator at the time and you were, creating content for something that people love doing in their homes when they're locked in their homes, you're going to make a lot of money from that. I didn't ask for it. If I could take it back, I would, but I'm just being real with you. The money was very different then than it is now. And we could have bought way more than we did, but we wanted to live below our means. We still live a very nice lifestyle. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm living in a shack. We've done very well, but we could have bought much more than we did. But because we knew we had a lot of expenses that were going to be associated with this property, we bought way below our means. And that has been what's gotten us through. If we were, paycheck to paycheck, like constantly in a battle financially, we would have been in real big trouble. So be prepared for that. If you're going to buy an old house, understand you are going to have expenses that you're not expecting. And sometimes those expenses cost you thousands of dollars. The HVAC systems in our house, I think it was Zach Arnold mentioned it. Somebody did. No, Dragon Dad, the system was $12,500. Yeah. I mean, these HVAC systems are super expensive. And for some reason, the system that we have on the newest edition on our house is like a commercial system, which it's still under warranty, which is nice. But oh man, I can't even imagine how much that thing would be to replace it. They're all very, very expensive things. So be prepared if you're saving up money and your intention is, I'm going to put my down payment down on the house and then, I'm going to do all of these projects. Make sure you have a nest egg set aside specifically for surprise expenses, because they will happen. Even if it's a house that's been completely renovated and the people say, oh, everything's perfect. They're not, especially if it was a house flipper that redid your house. They did it as cheap as possible. Things are going to break. It's going to happen. That was not the case here. The person who owned this house that we bought it from, he was a real estate investor, but he took really good care of this house. He owned it for like 12 years, and he took really good care of it. So I can't praise him enough for what he did, but it would have probably been a lot worse if he hadn't taken the care of it that he did. But it's very expensive. And these things are all on top of other things that are a huge hassle, a huge pain, and you might not be expecting it. Again, I just want to go through this real quick. When we bought this place, I was like, all right, 4 acres, but I like to say 5. I can cut that grass, probably take, 4 or 5 hours on a nice big lawnmower that you're going to let me buy because I have to have it. It's not going to be that big a deal. It'll be a nice Sunday afternoon thing, but that is far from the only maintenance that needs to be done on this property. Along with those sycamores that are constantly dropping sticks, it is the biggest battle of my life. I absolutely hate that. We've also got like 12 very mature pine trees. And guess what comes with pine trees? Pine needles and pine cones that constantly have to get picked up, because if I don't, the lawnmower is going to shoot those pine cones all over the place. And it is a huge battle. You don't think about those things when you're looking at this and you're just like, oh, it's this majestic place and all I have to do is cut the grass. No, you have to do a lot more. One of the best things, and I would recommend this to anyone that has any kind of property at all, one of the best things I've ever bought is a lawn sweeper. That is, oh, that has saved me so much heartache. If you're not familiar with what this is, it pulls behind your lawnmower, whatever type of lawnmower you have. It's got these brushes on it that pick up yard debris and throw it into a big, I don't even know what you call it, just a big vat that's being pulled behind your lawnmower, and it picks it all up, and it quite literally, it's like a vacuum for your yard. That's been one of the best expenses I've ever, I think we paid like $300 for it. Knowing what I know now, I would have paid $3,000 for it because it's the best thing ever. The one that we bought is shoot, I wasn't planning on talking about this, so I didn't look at it. I can't recall the name about it or the name of it, but we bought it at Lowe's. It is a great device. And the cool thing is I never got rid of my John Deere garden tractor. So I use that for the lawn sweeper, and I have my Kubota. It makes me look big time. Let me go get on my other lawnmower to do the lawn sweeping. I don't know, but it helps a lot with the pine cones, with the pine needles. It'll pick up little sticks. If there's big branches, it's not going to do anything for that, but it's great. Just be warned, if you get one of those lawn sweepers and you have a gravel driveway, don't go too close to it because you'll end up filling up that container with nothing but gravel. So be careful with that. But so much maintenance has to be done. Lisa knows, and pretty much everybody that knows me knows, Sundays are my yard day. That's how it's been. I don't think it's going to be that way this season, but it's always been Sundays. I'm out there. I'm picking up sticks. I'm spraying the driveway. Again, gravel driveway, weeds grow up through it. It's one of the banes of my existence. I got a nice DeWalt battery operated sprayer. It's fantastic. I use that along with, I don't remember the name of the chemical, but it's really expensive, but it works extremely well to kill the weeds in that driveway. That's just another one of those things. It never ends, but I love it so much. I love getting out there and doing that work as long as the bugs aren't attacking me. And I did have this on my list that Lisa brought up in the chat. Again, if you're not aware, Roots and Whiskers is my wife, Lisa. And that's the efficiency of the house. And this is another thing that is a big problem with almost all old homes. They are not, and I repeat, not, I'm going to repeat it again, not energy efficient. And that is going to wreak havoc on your electric bills or your gas bill or whatever it is. We have both. We have one system that's run on gas. I don't know why he did it that way. The other two are run on electric. The majority of our house is not well insulated, particularly the original house. There are, to my knowledge, there's like 10 windows in the original house that are original windows. They weren't thinking about energy efficiency in the mid 1800s. They were just thinking about putting up a window in there. And so they are drafty. They are, they do not do a good job keeping the cold out or the heat out or keeping those things in. But that's just one of those things that when you buy an old house, that's part of the deal. And you either love it or you hate it. Lisa and I went to a place in town that is the pinnacle restoration company in town. They do all the historic properties. Where we live in a very rural area, but we're about 8 miles from downtown. Downtown is very small, but there's a lot of houses in there too that are historic houses that a lot of them were built after this one was. But this one company is responsible for most of the contracted restorations that have been done on the homes and the commercial buildings in town. We went in there one day because they have a store too. And we were talking to the guy and I told him about the windows and he was like, please don't replace those windows. And I was like, no, I'm not planning on it, but I would like to do something. I don't know. I don't really want to put storm windows on there because they kind of look bad. I don't know what I want to do, but I wish there was something that I could do to make them a little bit more efficient. Not because I'm trying to save the planet, but just because I'm trying to save some money on my electric bill. That would be a nice thing. But yeah, I have no intention of replacing it. I do know that one of the one gentleman that I've met that did own this house, he talked about a storm that came through, and this is the reason why he replaced the metal roof with an asphalt roof, is because there was a massive hailstorm that came through here, and he had to replace 17 windows on this house from that one hailstorm. But those made it. I don't know why the originals made it. One of the originals is actually sitting right here, but this would have been original to 1860, not 1845. So anyway, energy efficiency is not something that you should expect in an old home. And if you want to make it energy efficient, believe me, I've looked into it. It costs an absolute fortune. So I don't know. I want to stop rambling here. This was, my intention with this again was to not complain and not be a vent session for me, but to be something that could possibly open up your eyes if you're entertaining buying an old house. It is the best thing we've ever done. I love this house so much. It is a dream come true for me. I feel like I'm living Norm Abrams' life now. I mean, like, this is what I dreamt of since I was a young man, and I'm finally living that dream. So even though it's a hassle, even though it costs us a lot of money, even though I have to bust my butt on this property, and my wife does too. It's not just me. I don't want to act like I'm out there working on the yard and she's in here eating ice cream. No, she's busting her butt too. It's a constant battle, but we absolutely love it. And I don't think either one of us would trade it for the world. I feel like when my time comes, I'm going to be put in the backyard. That's where I want my final resting place to be. That's how much I love this house. I don't know if it'll work out that way. It's very possible that Lisa and I could age out of this house at some point. She is substantially, I mean, folks, I robbed the cradle, okay? She is substantially younger than I am. Not really that much, but she's a lot younger than me. I'm going to be 51 years old next month. You know, it's possible you fast forward 16, 17 years, I might not be capable of keeping up with this place. And so, we may need to downsize or something like that. And if I do, then I don't think I'll be buried in the backyard here. But I will say this. There was one family that owned this property from 1830 all the way through 1986. The last surviving family member of that family, there's a cemetery in my backyard, and a lot of that family is in that cemetery. Generations of that family is in that cemetery. The last surviving member of that family who sold this property died 2 years later, I think. And the gentleman that bought this property from him was gracious enough to allow him to be buried back there, which I think is really special. That's very cool that he did that. Plus the guy's past wife was already back there. So it's kind of like, how are you going to tell him no? But I think he did a really nice thing of allowing that to be open to him. And he is buried, the most recent person buried in that cemetery back there. I just thought that was a really nice thing for him to do, to allow that. I might be buried next to him one of these days. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we'll see what happens. I absolutely love this place. I get so excited about doing projects on this place, even some of the projects that are super intimidating and I don't know how I'll ever do them. I just love thinking about doing those things. So it's the best thing ever. It can be super frustrating and it can be super expensive, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I think I can speak for my wife, and she would say the same thing. So I hope that helps if you're entering this crazy world that we live in. As I said to you before, if you're interested in learning like the history of this house, I could certainly do that. I do have some other topics that I've already kind of mapped out that I could do on this live stream. I've got one of the saddest woodworking stories you will ever hear that I could easily share with you on this live stream. Not today, but on a future one. I've got my furniture repair journey. If you'd be interested in that, I was a professional woodworker for 20 years, repairing furniture. If you'd like to hear that, I'd love to share that with you. And part of that is my woodworking journey. It's something that I've seen other YouTubers do, woodworking YouTubers. And I'm not really a woodworking YouTuber. I'm a woodworker that does renovations I said that wrong. I'm a YouTuber that's renovating my house that also sometimes does woodworking. But I was a professional woodworker for 20 years. If you want to hear that story, my journey of woodworking, I always love hearing people's stories. I've heard Norm tell his woodworking journey probably 40 times. And if I saw a new video pop up of Norm being interviewed and telling his story again, I would watch it again. I love that. Love to share that with you too. And then there's the story of this money pit. If you're interested in the history of this house, that's what I have listed out here so far as ideas for live streams. With that said, I don't think Wednesday at 11 a.m. is going to be the live stream time all the time for this channel. I think I'm going to mix it up and kind of try different times and see, what gets the best response. But Wednesdays at 11 are typically not a good time for me because for my business, I usually am going to the airport to pick up plants and snails, which we sell on our website. Wednesdays are kind of reserved for going and doing that, but it's the slow season. We are really stocked up on plants right now, so I didn't have to go and do that today. But next week, I'm sure I will be. So if I'm going to stream next week, it would not be at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. We'll have to figure out a different time for that. But I do have this. I wanted to tell you this before I get out of here. I have a couple of videos in the works right now, which I'm really proud of. One of them is the building of the 43 shaker style cabinet doors and drawer fronts. I'm about halfway through that video right now. I was not kidding you when I told you in a previous video on this channel that I had about 40 hours of footage. It's true. I mean, the amount of footage I had for that is outrageous. But the video is probably only going to be about 15 minutes long. So a lot of that footage is going to go to waste, but I filmed everything about that process. So that's going to be the next video. I'm going to be working on that video today, actually. That'll be the next one to upload, hopefully this weekend. And then the next one after that will be the worst experience I've ever had in my life that does not have a happy ending. And my wife's eyes just perked up. I can't see her, but I know she's like, wait a minute. What do you mean? It turned out great. What are you talking about? Well, there's a problem with it. So the project, worst experience of my life, was the refinishing of the kitchen floors. It's done. I'm proud of it. It looks great, but it also doesn't. You're going to have to wait for that video to find out why it doesn't look great. It is, again, I'm happy with it, but there was a major, major, major mistake made when I did that job. And let's just say every time I walk into that kitchen, I'm reminded of it, and it drives me crazy. So that'll be the next video. Hopefully that one will come out next week. And then I have the next part, which will actually be, no, actually I have two more videos that I'm going to do on the kitchen. One is going to be trim. It's a simple project, but it's installing baseboards. I removed the baseboards and threw the old ones away because they were just not very nice. I removed those to do the refinishing of the floors. So I'm going to be replacing those baseboards. I think I might be able to get a video out of that. I don't know. And then the kind of crown jewel of the kitchen remodel will be the construction of the kitchen island. So that's coming down the road, and it's going to have an absolutely incredible story behind the tabletop or the countertop for that kitchen island. So really excited about sharing that with you. Stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you're not. Those are all coming. But aside from that, I have a bunch of other smaller projects that my wife is going to laugh if she hears me say this. Should be weekend projects, like one weekend, start to finish, it's all over. That never seems to work. I don't know what it is, but it's another thing I probably should have talked about when we're talking about owning an old home. Whatever amount of time you think a project is going to take, double that. If you think it's going to take you a weekend, it's going to at least take you 2 weekends. If you think it's going to take you an afternoon, it's probably going to take you the entire weekend. At least for me. I don't move at the fastest pace, but there's surprises. There's things that you weren't expecting, which would be surprises. I need this tool. I need these materials. I got to run to the store. It always happens. But these projects should be pretty quick. One of them is building a new shed door. You've seen my shed in the background of the videos whenever I'm doing any woodworking on my back patio. The shed in the background, the door on that is trifling. I have to build a new one for that. That should be a weekend job. I can't even imagine what surprises would pop up on that. But, you know, this is my house, and everything is always surprises. I also have a very unique project that I'm going to be doing very soon. And I'm going to be honest, I don't even know how I'm going to do it. But one of the things I absolutely love about this property, and I noticed it the first time we drove into the driveway, is there's 2 really nice brick lampposts that are on at the entrance of our driveway. They're beautiful. They're made of brick and they're painted white, which is fine. It matches everything else. They are fantastic. I absolutely love them. They've got old lights put up on top of it. I love it. I love it so much. One of those lampposts is leaning, and they probably weigh a ton each lamppost because they're brick. I mean, they're really, really, like, it's a joke, but I mean, I've actually put my hands on them and like tried to push them. No way. Come on. You're not going to push them. So I have no idea how I'm going to straighten that out, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to make a video about that. Should take a weekend, but it'll probably take a year and a half. And then there's a bunch of other small ones too, that, you know, will eventually happen. So if you're into that kind of stuff, then come back here and join me. There's a lot of really cool things happening. The videos that I've been putting up on this channel have been very sporadic. They've been kind of random and only putting up like one a month. Once the kitchen's done, that should change. The kitchen has just been completely overwhelming. It's taken way longer than I expected. And yeah, a come along. Yeah, I don't have anything to attach the come along to. That's the problem. I mean, I've got a tree that is about 30 feet away. And I mean, I have a 1500 Sierra. I know for a fact my truck would not pull it straight, and it's because it's on a gravel driveway and it would just spin. So yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I'll probably just use a jack and just jack it up. I don't know. We'll see. I'll figure it out, but you'll get to see in that video how I'm going to straighten that thing out. And I think I'm going to actually build like a concrete footer for it, so it doesn't happen again, but I don't know. The way my luck goes, I'll get that thing straightened out. I'll dig out underneath it to figure out whatever I have to do to support it. And I'll find a freaking body under there or something. I mean, that's the luck that I have on this property. That was a horrible thing that I just said, but that's the way my luck works. It's like, oh, it's Jimmy Hoffa. Like we found him in North Carolina. I don't know. But hopefully that's something that goes very smooth. Anyway, I am to the point where I am rambling now. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. Come back and join me for the next live stream. I don't know which one I'll do. Maybe I'll put up a poll. Which one would you like to see? Would you like to see the story of our money pit, my woodworking journey, the story of my tools, which it is the saddest story that's ever been told in the woodworking world. If you are a woodworker, I don't care if all you have is a manual handsaw and an old drill that you have to do this with, and you're a hand tools person. If you are somebody who likes taking a piece of wood and crafting it into something, I promise you it will be the saddest story you've ever heard. And it's a story that was about a decade and a half in the making, and it's bad. It got me out of woodworking for quite some time. But anyway, thank you all so much. This channel has been a lot of fun for me, and I can't wait to talk to you again on the next live stream. Again, I don't know when it's going to be. I'm sure we'll do it next week, but I don't know what time it's going to be. Just make sure you're subscribed and you have notifications on so that when I do schedule it, you'll know it's coming. Anyway, thank you so much. I was just about to thank the moderators because I'm used to doing that on the KG Tropical stream, but I don't have any moderators yet. My wife was going to do it for me, but I didn't make her a moderator. I guess I got to fix that. Thank you all so much. We'll see you on the next one.